Jaime Munguia destroys John Ryder. Post-fight, he said he would love to share the ring with Canelo Alvarez. Payday, you'll want payday. I know that. Does that mean he's ready for it? Get ready for the Realest breakdown. Jaime Munguia versus John Ryder. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Last night, Jaime Munguia of Mexico, he had his first fight with none other than Hall of Fame trainer, former trainer of Manny Pacquiao. I want to, I believe, I will, Freddie, right? Freddie Roach. So some people were concerned, some people were excited, and they wanted to see how Jaime Munguia would look with a brand new trainer. And he looked pretty good. Like, I mean, about as good as you can expect from a Jaime Munguia. Listen, the reality is this. In my opinion, Jaime Munguia is a flawed fighter. It's just what it is. But there's nothing wrong with being a flawed fighter. And it's not even saying that you can't win as a flawed fighter. It's just what it is. What do I mean by flawed fighter? Because I know some of you guys are asking that. By flawed fighter, what I mean is he just has his flaws. I mean, it's just like the name suggests. He has flaws. Doesn't mean he can't beat certain people with those flaws. There's been a lot of fighters historically that have had these big, like, gaping holes in their fight game. They're not necessarily the most complete fighter, or they're not going to be a Pernell Whitaker on defense and real stealthy and crafty, but they can still beat guys. And sometimes even in these matchups where you have someone who is superior defensively or considered the more all around, what if that fighter doesn't have a great chin? So, you know, these one-dimensional styles can prevail in boxing. Styles make fights. It just depends on the individual matchup. But make no mistake about it, Jaime Munguia is a flawed fighter. He has flaws, and the reason I'm saying flaws is he's had several trainers, from Eric Morales to now Freddie Roach, and I see the same holes in his game, and they don't look to be getting shored up as he progresses. So yeah, that's definitely what I would call a flawed fighter. Doesn't mean he can't win against guys, doesn't mean he doesn't do other things right, and that's what it is. But usually fighters like Jaime Munguia, they don't have the same run and shelf life that you see from Bernard Hopkins or Floyd Mayweather. Easy work, I ain't gotta worry about it. Or guys like that, Juan Manuel Marquez of Mexico. Guys like even Sugar Ray Leonard or Terrence Crawford. Like, look at Terrence Crawford, how he fights. He can continue fighting. I'm not saying he wants to continue fighting, but if he wanted to, he's not taking so much punishment or damage to the point where he would be used up or too many miles on him, right? He's very cunning, very cat-like, etc. So guys like that typically last longer in the sport of boxing. It's no mystery. Make no mistake about it. Your shelf life and your window changes depending on how you fight exactly. And if you fight in a certain way, just so you know, in case you don't know, that could come back to bite you. And Jaime Munguia is one of those fighters. Now, as far as the Realest breakdown, let me break down the fight. Jaime Munguia, he did his thing. He beat up John Ryder. He dropped him 4 times, a total of 4 times, and he won the bout convincingly. There were not many moments for John Ryder. I don't know what he had going on. I gave John Ryder, I think, like 2 rounds, rounds 6 and 7. I remember his rounds were back-to-back rounds. And other than that, he didn't really do much, but kind of survive and pick himself off the ground. He got dropped, I want to say, in the second round of the fight. He was getting mauled on and hit. Now, I got to talk about one of the flaws that I seen from Jaime Munguia that I continue to see. And that's Jaime Munguia. When he gets you hurt, he wants to just go berserk. Berserker barrage. Throw caution to the wind and just throwing everything he got at you. One, you could punch yourself out. And it looks like he did that versus John Ryder. There were these moments where he definitely phased John Ryder. he definitely looked to have him hurt and or dropped him or whatever the case is. And then he went like balls to the wall, and it looked like he had to recover in some of the following rounds, because I want to say one of his very good rounds, like let's say 4 or 5, he looked like he was close to like finishing John Ryder, and then he may have dropped him or whatever. And then shortly after that, John Ryder had his best rounds. So that's not a good thing. When you look at other fighters, even offensive fighters, like let's say David Benavidez, when David Benavidez has you hurt, he usually just ups the tempo, and he either stops you or he mauls you and does like he did with Caleb Plant, where like you almost could have stopped it the way it was looking. So David Benavidez, once he's like a sports car. Once he gets to the 0 to 60 mark, you can't catch him once he gets going. Jaime Munguia, he almost has these like spurts, like the ebb and flow is a bit weird, at least to me, because I'll see Jaime Munguia have these very high highs, and then following rounds, it'll be like his worst rounds in the fight. And I've seen this in other fights where he just gives up the play. So this fight didn't look too much different than the Sergey Derevyanchenko fight. I do think the Derevyanchenko fight altogether was a bit harder, and he didn't knock Derevyanchenko down 4 times like he did to John Ryder. But all in all, I still see the same flaws with Freddie Roach, without Freddie Roach, with Eric Morales, without him. But again, Jaime Munguia, for me, he's like Ruslan Provodnikov. He's a guilty pleasure. I enjoy watching his fights because with everybody, I'm realistic when it comes to boxing. I'm a realistic fan, and I'm not expecting everybody to be who I want them to be. Like, because me personally, I think probably my favorite style is a boxer puncher with power. Like someone who's scientific, but he's like a boxer puncher. Not like no power and he's just super scientific and not getting hit. But when you can find the fighters that do a little bit of everything complete on the spectrum, that tends to be my favorite fighter. I would say like boxer punchers, you know, and guys who know how to put their punches together and finish you, but they're not just going out recklessly and getting punched up, you know, trying to finish you, things like that. So all in all, it was a good performance. It was an expected performance. Like for me, a lot of you guys tell me that John Ryder is this and that. I never rated John Ryder like a lot of you guys did. You guys blew up John Ryder. Before he fought Munguia, I think he had 6 losses. 6 losses, and he had been stopped by Nick Blackwell, who got permanently like removed from the sport after his fight with Chris Eubank, right? I don't know. I just never rated John Ryder like a lot of y'all. A lot of y'all think John Ryder is the ultimate. And for me, I didn't see that one bit. So I expected this hand over heart. And I told you guys that. If you follow me on social media, if you don't, make sure you guys do follow me. At BoxingEgo1 on Instagram, and it's pretty much at BoxingEgo on everything else. We got the Facebook like page. We got the Twitter /X, BoxingEgo. You know, I even have a TikTok. So find me on TikTok. I'm going to start putting out more content on TikTok as well as this YouTube platform. So all in all, Jaime Munguia was an expected performance. Post-fight, I think DAZN did a whole lot. Like post-fight, when he was knocking him out, because he had dropped him like 2 times in the last round, I think it was. DAZN was like, Canelo, what do you think about this? And I thought that was goofy. I thought that was corny. I think DAZN has the worst live boxing commentary in the game right now. The worst. First of all, Canelo was probably in his mansion, probably golfing, probably out to dinner with his lady or something baller. You know, I highly doubt he's sitting glued to the tube watching DAZN and worried about Jaime Munguia. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying he won't watch highlights or whatever, but based on the performance, I don't think Canelo has anything to worry about. And this is just being real with you. On my post-fight breakdowns, I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. I give you guys the good, the bad, and the ugly. And for me, Jaime Munguia, although he's a guilty pleasure, he's fun to watch, he's a flawed fighter. That being said, him versus elite people in the division, I don't have him beating really anyone. Really anyone in that top conversation. David Benavidez took to his social media. I made a video about it. You need to check it out on my YouTube. David Benavidez watched it and said something to the effect of, "That's some easy work. I see why they ducked me." Meaning they were in negotiations and he went the John Ryder route rather than the Benavidez route. And I agree with that. Benavidez would chop Jaime Munguia up. I have no doubt in my mind about that. None. Munguia, he's offensive, but a lot of times the guys are smaller. Like John Ryder, they're talking about how his calves were buff. I don't care about none of that, bro. They're shorter. A lot of these guys that Jaime Munguia has been fighting is shorter than him. Benavidez will be the first person who is bigger than him with the style that you have to respect his power. If you've seen Jaime Munguia get hurt by Sergey Derevyanchenko, then best believe that David Benavidez can definitely hurt you. This is why Golden Boy is matching Jaime Munguia in such a way. It's just like Zordo Ramirez, like where he's cool, he's solid, but the record is padded. The record, you got 40, 50, 60 fights or whatever amount Zordo has, whatever amount Munguia has, and majority of them don't amount to 5 of Canelo's fights. You know what I mean? Like you look at Canelo's top 5, there's no one on Munguia on his resume that rivals Canelo's top 5. Furthermore, John Ryder even, we don't even know if he's the same fighter because he definitely lost his last fight before the Munguia fight to Canelo. And that's an old promoter trick. It really is. What do I mean? The promoter trick is to basically get a guy on like 2 weeks notice, fresh off the couch, fresh off another fight, fresh off a punishing fight, fresh off a loss, you know, these types of things where people are looking like, oh, this is a great name. I want to see this fight because they're thinking about the namesake and the brand, but they're not looking at the intangibles. Is this guy on a long layoff? Oh, this guy hasn't fought in 16 months. Oh, this guy just fought and lost. That's John Ryder. He had a broken jaw or nose, something Canelo did. I forgot the exact injury. He lost convincingly to Canelo, right? Even though he had some moments where I guess he gave Canelo a little bit of issue, like he was tough, whatever. But there was no one at the end of that fight that believed that Canelo lost the fight. Anybody realistic. So you fought John Ryder off of a loss. Golden Boy and DAZN kept bragging about Canelo couldn't do this, but Canelo did do this because he could have tenderized John Ryder, given the fact that he beat him and broke his nose. He might have took the last little fight about him because John Ryder entered the Munguia fight talking about if he loses that he would probably retire. So miss me with that. DAZN commentary, terrible stuff. But, you know, shout out to Jaime Munguia. I don't see him beating the Morels, the Benavidezes, and the Canelos, or even Jermall Charlo, you know, unless Jermall Charlo's not the same from his hiatus. Let me know what you guys think. Jaime Munguia, what's next for him? What do you want to see next? Subscribe to my channel, Best in the Business, and it's not even close.